I want to start the show off by giving a quick shout out to Dale DeRuse. Dale, your son Jake shared this with me over on Twitter, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching the show, for being a fan. I'll take Goofy as a compliment. Pluto is always my favorite Disney character, but Dale, thanks so much for being a longtime viewer. Really appreciate your kind words. I hope you enjoy and stick around for future coverage. On today's Browns Report, I want to go through my dream training camp for Cleveland, right? If I got to handpick everything and if I got to write the script for the NFL script writers, how would I have the Browns training camp going? Aside from trading for Aaron Donald or something ridiculous like that, here are my 5 steps to a dream training camp for Cleveland, starting with Watson is a walking highlight. 2023 is not a boomer bust season for Deshaun Watson because he's under contract for a lot more years, but he needs to prove a lot of the naysayers wrong this upcoming season, and that starts with having a strong training camp, right? The redemption tour for Deshaun Watson, it starts now. It starts with training camp. Even if he's not going to get a lot of reps in preseason, we just can't afford to have bad tweets circulating on Twitter of Deshaun Watson missing open receivers. That's something for my mental health I just can't go through. I just cannot deal with more negativity surrounding Deshaun Watson's play after everything Cleveland gave up to go out and get him. And I'm a believer in Deshaun Watson having a bounce-back season because the bar, well, frankly, it's not that high. You know, he just got to complete 59% of his passes. But no, he does have to improve from last season. Last year, there were a lot of people that were quick to point out bad plays from Watson. All I read was, oh, so you didn't watch the whole Browns game, right? You're nitpicking. You didn't watch some of the amazing plays he had extending drives and whatnot. You didn't watch all the drop passes they had in the Saints game. No, you just looked at the final score, and that's fine. People want to do that, no problem. They are going to regret that, though, for 2023 because Watson in Houston was a generational passer. I mean, that's maybe a bit of a stretch, but is it? 4,800 yards in his last season, 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions en route to leading the NFL in passing. And the, tour of getting jokes off on Watson, I can understand. But the actual knock against his play, that I don't understand. Because when you look at the Madden quarterback rankings, it's just Madden. Madden rankings are awful. They suck. But these are really bad. I mean, does anyone actually sit down and think, I can't decide, Watson or Geno? This seems like a 50-50. Oh, come on. Geno was really good last year. But does anyone really believe Deshaun Watson and Derek Carr, those two guys are neck and neck? I know Derek Carr has led the NFL in passing before, so this makes a lot of sense. But a lot of bad takes are going to get exposed, and I am here to serve as an old takes exposer from people last year that were quick to clown the Browns and believe that they had already dug their graves and Deshaun Watson was going to suck and he will continue to suck because I don't think that's going to be the case, Dav. When he tweeted out back in December, Denver made the worst trade in NFL history. All right, Russell Wilson was not good last year, Dav. I can agree with you on that. But to say that's already been the worst, would you simmer down a little bit, Mr. Kleiman? When they traded for Wilson, the Browns trade for Deshaun Watson doesn't appear to be much better. All right, so 5 games in at that point, and we are ready to declare that it's an awful trade. Great job, Dav. Warren Sharp, one of the best football minds out there, but he has not been a supporter of this Deshaun Watson trade to Cleveland, saying back in January, Deshaun Watson is horrible. He's 3 of 8 for 23 yards, 2.9 yards per attempt, and 4 sacks. Yeah, way to cherry pick what was a frozen tundra game against the Saints outdoors where the Browns had a bunch of receivers drop passes. Good job, Warren. Way to really dig deep for that. Colin Cowherd also tweeted back in January, Kenny Pickett's base salary will average about $2 million a year for the next 4 years. Deshaun Watson's, good spelling, will be $46 million annually. Watching today, Watson is not 23 times better. That is the laziest opinion / take I've ever seen. When has the salary been exactly a multiplier of how much better someone else is in the NFL? Tom Brady got $25 million his last year in the NFL, or his first year, rather, with the Buccaneers. Does that mean someone making $50 million was twice as better than Tom Brady? No. But if you want to go this route, Coward, to have it fit your narrative, by all means, knock yourself out. But I am here to say, when Deshaun Watson does get back to that Pro Bowl form in 2023, I look forward to bringing up some of these bad old tweets. So if you believe Watson will prove people wrong in 2023 and he's going to get back to that elite form that Cleveland traded for, like the video. Let's get some good vibes going for number 4 headed into training camp and preseason football. Second element of a dream training camp for Cleveland, the Browns signed a defensive tackle. We're filming today's video on Friday afternoon, right before I leave for the weekend. So hopefully they don't sign a defensive tackle before the time this goes out. Actually, hopefully they do sign a defensive tackle, but for my own selfish reasons, hopefully they do it after this video goes out. But there are still some good free agent defensive tackles out there. Shelby Harris and Matthew Ioannidis have been two names tossed about a bunch. I'm a big fan of one of these two. We'll do a deep dive on that in just a second. Chris Wormley, longtime Pittsburgh Steeler, very versatile player, can bounce around the defensive line. William Golston, longtime Tampa Bay Buccaneer, more of a defensive end, but he could get kicked inside to D-tackle. And I just do the Ndamukong Suh for the memes because there are so many people that still want Suh. And there was a time when I wanted Suh very badly, but that time is somewhat past, and it's just not going to happen in August. But the guy that I've talked about before on the show that I continue to stick by is Shelby Harris. I mean, 2 seasons ago, he put up 6 sacks. For being a defensive tackle, defensive lineman, not coming off the edge traditionally, 6 sacks from the interior, that's really good production in my eyes. And he did it twice in the last 4 seasons. Now, last year with the Seattle Seahawks, after being included in that Russell Wilson trade, his PFF score skyrocketed. 73.2 overall. I like to say with PFF, add 10, and that's kind of your school letter grade. So there's a B- starting defensive tackle out there in July, almost August. That's a rarity. That's not very common. 17th best defensive tackle according to PFF out of 127 qualifying players. I think there is still some football juice left in Shelby Harris's tank, and I'd love to see him come play for the Browns this year. Now, if a signing does happen, you guys know we're going to break it down. I basically flew into the studio the moment Darius Smith got traded to Cleveland from Minnesota to get you guys a video as soon as possible. So if that's the kind of dedication you're looking for, you have found the right channel. Hit that sub button down below. Third element to a dream training camp for Cleveland is a quick turnaround on defense. Hand up, I was guilty of it last year. I gave this defense all their roses, and I gave them all their credit way too soon. And it backfired horribly. But this year, we have a little trick up our sleeve, and it's Mr. Jim Schwartz. Is he the greatest defensive coordinator in NFL history? No. But has he had a Super Bowl winning defense? Yes. Has he had a Detroit Lions team be relevant for Lions standards? Yes. Did he have the Bills defense towards the top of their A game after being towards the bottom of the league? Yes. Jim Schwartz is going to come in here, and he is hopefully going to quickly turn this boat around because it is going in the wrong direction, or at least it was under Joe Woods, But Jim Schwartz, he has a long laundry list of to-dos once the pads come on. First step, fix the communication issues. I'm not in the huddle. You're not in the huddle. We're not on the field. But we could all see last year, time and time again, the secondary had a major breakdown in communication, and someone was left wide open, and it nearly cost them 2 games, and it did cost them 1 game. Second thing, revamp the defensive line. You have Myles Garrett, but the other 3 starters are all new players for the most part, right? Jordan Elliott maybe stays as the incumbent, but Zadarius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson, Okoronkwo, those are all new guys. They got to get put in the right situation. Jim Schwartz has to figure out everyone's home on the defensive line. Third step, get Juan Thornhill caught up. I mean, he's a starting safety now for this team. He's being tossed in that starting lineup. I'm not worried about him having a big adjustment going from Kansas City to Cleveland, but he's replacing John Johnson, and hopefully early on he can show some nice Twitter highlights to get people jazzed up about him and Delpit forming an underrated safety duo in my eyes. He also has to restore Denzel Ward. The guy got paid 5 years, $100+ million. He has to look like someone you pay $20 million a season to. Last year, he looked like someone you give $2 million a season to. So Denzel Ward needs to refine his groove. He needs to cement himself, in my eyes, as a top 10 corner. Because to be honest with you, I saw some chatter about, is Denzel Ward top 10? He wasn't top 10 in Madden's ratings. Madden ratings suck. But if he is top 10, which I think he is, but I think he's closer to 10 than 1. And for how he's paid, he has to be closer to 1 than 10. And finally, the Browns appear to be somewhat healthy at linebacker with Anthony Walker and Taki. He's got to band-aid the linebackers. He's got to get some other guys like Jordan Kunaszyk and Tony Fields in a position where if they need to start for a game or two while these other guys are working themselves back to injuries, he can be confident that Fields and Kunaszyk and Matthew Adams can step in and do a nice job filling in. Now, speaking of the new Jim Schwartz defense, how would you grade it? Very curious to see what kind of grades we're going to give ourselves here. Try to be, not too biased. I think I'm going to give this defense a B+. I think it could end the season like an A+. I think it could end the season like a C+. But that's kind of the whole theme for the 2023 Browns. They could be 6-11, they could be 11-6, and no one would be shocked. But what kind of letter grade would you give this defense? Fourth pillar of a dream training camp in my eyes is Elijah Moore showcases his elite speed. We went into this past offseason with not a very long to-do list for Andrew Berry. It was get a real defensive tackle, an actual run stopper, and add some speed to the wide receiver room. So unfortunately, Elijah Moore now has to carry a little bit more of the lion's share due to the bad news we received not long ago about Marquise Goodwin being placed on the non-football injury list. Like I said, we're filming this Friday afternoon when the news broke, so fingers crossed that Marquise Goodwin will be able to rejoin his team sooner rather than later, but he is dealing with some blood clots in his lungs and in his legs, so hopefully that can be resolved soon for, of course, Goodwin's health concerns, but Elijah Moore definitely has some more added, no pun intended, to his plate here as the speed demon for this wide receiver room, and I want to see that speed, right? I want to see Elijah Moore have the ability to stretch the field and look like that 34th overall pick and then some. Final note I will add to a dream training camp for Cleveland is a nice, smooth, seamless offensive install. Kevin Stefanski had a lot to do this offseason. His job was very much dependent on this offense and this team being successful in 2023, and he knows that after having Jacoby Brissett and Baker Mayfield be his starting quarterbacks, and even, Case Keenum, why not Nick Mullins, if we want to continue the last few seasons, that a 17-game Deshaun Watson starting lineup would have to have a different offense. And he has spent a lot of time this offseason retooling this offense, right? Deshaun Watson spoke to the media back during minicamp and said, I would just say about the foundation and the structure of the offense is the same, but as we build and continue to get ready for the season, everything else is new. I want to say this now because I do not want to have this conversation in a few months. I do not want to be going into October. This team is 1-2, 1-3, or whatever, and we all start saying, just give it time. Just give it time. The offense has to settle in. It's a brand new offense. Maybe for the first game or two, but I don't want to go much further past that. So in a dream training camp situation, this team comes out of camp with a very good and tight understanding of what the new offense looks like and everyone's role in it and all the checks and all that stuff, and everyone has a very good, footing on what the 2023 Cleveland Browns offense is trying to do. Because I bring back some of these numbers from last season, and Kevin Stefanski has a lot of changing to do. Why? Because when you look at the 2022 snap types, the offense didn't change all that much. At least the formation didn't change all that much. From Jacoby Brissett to Deshaun Watson, they both took the same amount of snaps in shotgun as they did under center, right? So I don't expect the Browns to roll out the same offense this year. Just like how last year I didn't expect the Browns to do a 180 midseason from Jacoby Brissett to Deshaun Watson. Now that it's Deshaun Watson from the get-go, this offensive install will not be catered to someone else. It'll be catered to him, and hopefully he can get a good grip on it right off the bat. So predict it for me, 25 touchdowns for Deshaun Watson this year. Over or under? I'm in the overs club. Life's too short. Put me down for an O for over. But let me know how many touchdowns you think Watson's going to get this upcoming season. To wrap up the show, we've got Tyler Smith behind the camera. Smitty, what card we feeling?
We're going to go with the 7 of hearts, kind of right in the middle, good suit, hearts. It's a Friday.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I like that. It's not Friday when you guys are watching, but it's Friday today. So I'm going to go with a 5 of spades.
Okay.
Here we go. Ace of clubs.
Not even close.
We don't get a lot of aces a lot. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see everyone later.